Well, hello and welcome to today's Confessions of a Global Changemaker show. I'm now live with you every Tuesday and Thursday for the Confessions show, which means that the people that I'm bringing to you are juicy, awesome people. I've had literally hundreds of people request to be on this show. So the people that you're seeing in the hot seat are the ones that are the cream of the crop, the ones that I believe are going to most support you in moving the needle forward in your life and business. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce you today to an amazing lady who, I mean, I don't know how you've gone through what you've gone through and you are still walking and talking. Well, I mean, you had to relearn how to do that, but right. Listen, dial in, stay tuned for today's show, because this is a roller coaster journey you're going to want to hear, because there's lots and lots of learnings that you're going to get as we go through today's show. So Jennifer, welcome to Confessions of a Global Changemaker.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited. I remember hanging on the edge of my seat when we had our quick meeting the other day about like what we were going to talk about on the show. And like, I was just like, I don't know how we're going to pick one thing to really talk about, because there's so much that you have on your journey, which, you know, you're a prolific writer. You do all kinds of stuff. You run retreats, you help people to get their story and their message out. And oh God, it's just such an honor to have you here, just tapping into some of that amazing wisdom that you're bringing to us today. Greg Garrett is in the house. Hello, Greg. He's my husband. He's sat in the wheelhouse. So, wow, it's good to know that you're watching the show. So, guys and girls, we're going to dip in right now into Jen's journey. Jen, you've been through all kinds of things. You had to literally learn how to walk and talk again. You had to learn how to tie your shoelaces, but you've been on an incredible roller coaster journey. We'll come to some of those things that you've gone through in just a moment. But before we do, tell us a bit about, you know, the journey that you've had, like some of the challenges that you've had whilst building your business, because you've gone through lots of personal things. On the business side of things, what are some of the toughest things that you've come through?
Well, part of it is because I didn't go to traditional business school. I've really had to figure everything out on my own and find out where to know what I don't know, and who can help me find those answers the best and the most clearly. And I think that discerning that is pretty difficult, but I also think that that's part of what has made it more interesting. I really believe that finding different, it's just as much about finding what does not work for you as what does.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with someone once, really trying to get to the bottom of the business, that they really wanted to start a business, but they didn't know what to start a business in. They'd never started a business before. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to them, okay, what motivates you? You know, what would you jump out of bed in the morning to do? And we were looking at all the positive things and they just weren't getting it. And I said, what really fucks you off? Mm-hmm. What really drives you insane? What really frustrates you about anything, just anything at all? Oh, well, I couldn't shut him up then. He was so, like, it was like, okay, sometimes we've got to know what we don't want to know what we do want. Greg is saying Jen is very quiet. I'm okay. I can hear Jen okay. So guys and girls, those of you tuning in for the show right now, can you hear her all right? Because I can hear her. So I'm going to crack on anyway. Let's just crack on, and hopefully the sound will adjust for whoever it's not working so well for. So you've gone through this journey where you literally overheard your family talking about you, but in a way that you wouldn't want to hear a family talking about you. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's been a major influence in you being so resilient and you creating an entire business around resilience. So tell us about that conversation that you overheard.
Well, I was 15 and I was at kind of a turning point. It's funny for having a turning point being 15, but I had recovered from my traumatic brain injury to the extent where I was ready to go back to school. And there was a meeting, and it's easy. I almost hate telling that story because it paints my parents in a very horrific light, but it's not their fault. My parents had to have a meeting with the insurance agents, and with all of my various therapists at the time. I had a speech pathologist. I had different kinds of therapists for my brain injury. And they all had to meet together in my living room with the insurance agents to literally write a list of things that I would never be able to do, because that was how the insurance would pay the bills for all of my hospitalization. I was hospitalized in and out for about 6 months. I lived in the hospital for about 6 weeks, but after that, it was, it was quite a bit. And so my parents told me to stay in the other room, but I was a teenager, so of course I listened. So it's incredible to me to try to find words to describe how my heart literally sank as there were, all these things, this list of things that they wrote, things like having graduating from high school, going to college, having a job, driving a car. Actually, I didn't learn to drive a car until I was 40, but I did it.
Well done.
Things like that. I mean, real, like, have my own home, live independently, get married, have a meaningful relationship, normal stuff that would bring meaning to most people's lives were all out of the equation before I even started, really. So at
And for
first I was
most
angry.
teenagers, that would put them hard, wouldn't it? At the age of 15, 16, you just kind of get into boys and,
Right.
things that, we're starting to have hormones and emotions
Right.
flowing through our systems. And then, bam, what actually happened? Was it an accident or something? What happened to you? How did you end up in hospital?
I was in a car accident. There were 2 cars of us coming home, and I live in a very rural area in Oregon in the Western United States. And it was very typical high school for our area. We were coming back from a football game, and there was 2 cars of 5 kids each. We didn't know, but the drivers of the 2 cars decided to race. And because I live in a rural area, the person who was driving our car raced over a gravel road. That was the end of the shortcut that we didn't know that she was going to take. So then, for some reason, I think it was the speed. I don't know that I ever heard what the speed was, but I think it was around 60 to 80 was which is a huge variation, but that was all that I was told.
Still fast.
Yeah.
Kill someone at 40.
Right. The car spun out and then rolled 6 times and landed on a fence post. And I was on the fence post. I was in the middle of the back seat. And luckily I was the worst hurt, but each of us had our own ambulance. And because we're, again, from such a rural area, we knew all the, I didn't know then, but I had grown up with the people who were the ambulance drivers and the volunteer firemen, and they all took care of all of us. And I went to the hospital. My parents were told that I had died, and were in the chapel.
Oh, God.
And there was a really bizarre circumstance. I don't know if I believe in miracles or coincidences or any of that stuff, but my parents were in the chapel and had been told that there was very little chance that I would come back. And then someone came in the chapel and said, "There's someone here who just got back from a brain injury conference. He has this experimental drug. Do you want to try and use it?" And so my parents said yes.
I've got goosebumps all over me right now.
Well, it gets crazier, though. It gets crazier. So they said yes, right? So I come back, and there wasn't any records afterwards of who the doctor was. My parents don't know who it was or what drug exactly they gave me.
So wow. So this is like a divine happening.
I think so.
It's like the angels just walk into your life and then walk back out again. So they put you on this drug. This experimental drug. I guess they're thinking what's the worst that can happen, because the worst has happened effectively at that point. So they start giving you this drug, and this drug actually brings you around. What did this drug do?
Well, I had what's called a diffuse brain injury. There's lots of different kinds, of course, including strokes. That's a kind of brain injury. But with my brain injury, it's kind of like if you imagine a bottle of soda, if you shake it up, your brain is like a pebble inside of a bottle of soda, and so it bounces around, and the inside of your brain isn't smooth like you would think. It's got sharp points. So parts of my brain were sheared off during that, and that's where the injuries tend to occur with diffuse brain injuries. That also means that there were injuries all over different parts. So I was in a coma for about a week after I came back to life, apparently.
God,
And I
that's
was in and out,
amazing. Your mum
but
and dad, I mean, what a journey for them to
I know.
see you as you are now, building these amazing businesses and supporting many, many entrepreneurs to get their story out because you're so brave. You're brave enough to share your story. I think is really, gosh, I mean, they must be thanking God literally every day that you've been able to come away from that and get married and have a family and do all the things that were on that list. Was there a little part of you, or is there still a little part of you now that's got hold of that list and just gone tick 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 tick
Oh,
tick?
absolutely. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. I'm a it's funny for being a creative person, I can be very linear, and sometimes that's how I get stuff done. I don't necessarily have a written list. Until recently I didn't make a written list. But oh, absolutely. I've always had sort of a mental list, like, and nobody's going to stop me from that. And it's funny because at first the things weren't earth-shattering things to regular people. Graduating from high school isn't like a, barn-blowing kind of goal, but for me it was.
Right.
And I think that everybody has those things. Mine were just super dramatic. It's just funny because I'm not really a dramatic person. Dramatic things just tended to happen to me. I'm pretty quiet most of the time, but
It just what this is bringing up for me is this thing around resilience.
Mhm.
um like I believe that I'm as resilient as I am. I mean, there'll probably be many, many factors, but I believe I'm resilient as I am because I just can't stand to be told no.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
not so much no, it's you can't do that. Or
Right.
it's not possible, right? So it's those kind of no's. I remember my dad saying to me, "There's no way you're going to art college. You're not going." I remember hearing him and my mum have this massive blowout, full-blown row because he's saying she's not going to art college, and my mum's saying, "My dad stopped me going to art college. You're not going to stop her going. She's gonna, if she wants to go to art college, she'll go to art college." And he's like, and I just always remember his reply. He went, "If you let her go to art college, Jill, she's going to come back. She's going to dye her hair black. She'll become a goth. She'll pierce her nose. She'll have all tattoos all over her. She'll never make anything of herself. No, no." And this is one of those conversations where, like, I have the best mum and dad in the world. They're just the most amazing people.
Mhm.
But I just always remember that conversation. And every time my dad and I sit down, at least once a year, we sit down and we have a little heart to heart. We watch the stars, we drink wine, and we sit back.
Mhm.
And he always says, "I'm so sorry for."
Oh.
Like, he still obviously has that moment in his heart as well of thinking, like he was going to stop me from doing that. If he had to stop me, who knows where I'd be on my destiny, because we always get back to it, whatever it's
Mhm.
meant to be. But,
Mhm.
I could have definitely taken a much longer route, but going to art college is the foundation of absolutely everything I do now. So isn't it
Mhm.
amazing? Like, have you had a conversation with your mum and dad? Like, have they ever told you what was going through their minds at that point?
Well, they were absolutely gobsmacked. They were just terrified, of course, like any parent would be. My dad had to work. My parents both, they owned, this is really ironic also. My parents owned a home healthcare business that sold wheelchairs. When I was sick, that was what my parents' business was, which was funny because then they knew a lot of the people who were in the hospital because they'd worked with a lot of the doctors and things like that. So it's just another funny little odd ping,
And this whole thing was
coincidence.
set up, wasn't it, really? It was like, we're
Yeah.
going to push you so far in this life. Your contract is we're going to push you and push you and push you. And you're not going to like drama, but we're going to give you a load anyway. And we're going to test you because, you've already got this whole, brand mapped out for you for the rest of your life. So we've got to test that you're resilient so you can go out and talk about being resilient. It's like...
Yep.
Throw me some more. I haven't been tested that I'm resilient enough yet. Give me some more.
Yes. I've often felt that way. Like, come on.
How
But
many of you watching this have felt that way as well? Like I do. I certainly get that. Jen, obviously with your business, the things that you're doing now and the lessons that you've learned along the way, what would you say are some of the biggest things that drive us that support us with being resilient? Because is it that resilience is for rebels? Like what is it that drives us to be resilient? How can we make ourselves resilient? Is it something we can make ourselves? Is it a natural thing that we do? Are we born with it? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that all of us have a choice, right? You have a choice with every interaction, and you have a choice with every circumstance you find yourself in. Sometimes there's things that are done to you in your life that you don't have a choice about them happening to you, but you always have a choice of how you react to it and how you frame that for yourself. You can frame it as a challenge, or you can frame it as something that you let defeat you. And I think also, especially in a business realm, you can't be afraid to fail, and you can't be afraid to try. You have to keep trying. It's not always going to work. There's going to be, I can't tell you how many times I mean, most writers, we get so many rejections all the time, but you'll find your person who gets what you're saying. You'll find your niche. You'll find your client. You just have to keep trying. You just can't give up. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Now, I mean, because you're a content writer, it's everything, it's in your bones, it's in your blood, really. Where do you think that actually comes from? Where do you get your writing skills, your creativity? Who have you borrowed that from?
Oh, from everyone. I think as a writer, I think no one is being honest if you don't say that you borrow from almost everything that you read. And I think to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. Reading is really what brought me back. Before I could speak, I could read. And it was funny because I read a lot of, again, I was 15, right? So I read a lot of, Charlotte Bronte, and very, very dramatic and angsty. And yes, I felt like the Mrs. Rochester locked up in Jane Eyre. But I think that you learn, for me, literally, I learned to live and to work by reading. That was what gave me a new voice. And so then I think as an entrepreneur, you borrow a little bit from everybody you speak with and work with, right? I think you have to pick what works for you and change it a little bit so that it's not plagiarism. Obviously, you don't want to take anyone else's ideas, but you have to internalize things and make them your thing. That's the only way it makes sense for me.
So for people, yeah, absolutely. For those people that are either watching or listening to the show now who are on that journey, like how many of you actually, tell us what part of your journey you're on? Are you already writing blogs? Have you already written a book? Have you been part of a book like the Law of Brand Attraction book? Where are you at on your content journeys? Because obviously, as you're getting into this sphere of building your influence and reaching more lives, taking what you know and getting it out there in ways that other people can consume it instead of you having it all in here and here, is one of the fastest ways that you can actually build the exposure and create bigger impact. What would be your strategy for people, Jen, who are just getting into this, who are just starting either to blog or to think about writing a book? What's your process for that? What would you advise them to do?
Well, Two different things. Firstly, for blogging, I personally I love the platform of Instagram. I think that Instagram is accessible to everyone, and because it's visual, it's quicker, and people consume it faster, which is both a plus and a minus. But with blogging, it's regularity, and I think of Instagram as an extension of that. It's simply a visual blog. You don't have to go live, but you'll get a lot more followers a lot more quickly if you do, and if you show up regularly for your audience. And then as a blogger or Instagrammer, it's really, you need to ask them what they want, ask them what they need, ask them, and then supply that, right? You don't want to pull a bait and switch. So I think that in that arena, I think that's the best way to start. Now, for writing a book, my best advice is to just write. You have to be a person who is regular about that as well. But you've heard that before, I'm sure. I think something that I think people don't talk about enough with writing is writing to a target. You've got to know
Mhm.
who you're speaking to. If you're writing a magazine article, it's a lot easier. Like if you're writing to Redbook, you can figure out their target audience. You know, they're women between the ages of 30 and 70. That's their target audience. What do they want to hear? What do they want to know? But if you're pitching a book, it's the same kind of thing. You've got to really research, and you can't think that that's going to be done for you. You have to figure out who you want to talk to and why they would want to hear what you have to say. So
Yeah.
for me, it's research.
Yeah, and I mean, I always, whenever I'm writing something, I get really specific about who that is.
Mhm,
You know, like for the Law of Brand Attraction book, I went and found the ideal person.
mhm,
I knew her name, I knew all about her, and I went onto Facebook. I printed out a picture of her and I stuck it right next to my camera on my laptop, just behind there, so that as I was creating videos, all the sales videos, you know, any of the promotional stuff, every time I was writing something for the book, every time I was reading one of the chapters from the author, I had this person in mind.
mhm,
So, you know, is Claire going to enjoy this story? You know, is she going to walk away with massive value from this? Is
mhm,
this something that Claire would be able to go away and do immediately? Is this something that Claire can afford to go away and do? You
mhm,
know, so every single thing was totally tailored for her as
mhm,
my ideal customer.
mhm,
And like you say, I don't think people speak to that enough, do they? Really, they say, who's your ideal avatar? They
mhm.
don't really get you to do anything further than that. But
Right.
having that one-to-one conversation, even if it's through the communication of your fingers into words instead
Mhm,
of your mouth into words,
mhm.
is still incredibly important to be laser focused, isn't it? Have you got any examples of things that haven't worked well because that didn't happen?
Oh, absolutely. Back in the old days before I did a lot of online marketing, marketing books is very difficult. Marketing books, unless you have one of the big three companies behind you, you have to do it yourself. So unless you take the time to figure out who that audience is, even if you're, putting yourself in the chair at every writing festival, which is what I did for a couple years before I figured that out. Before I figured out how to approach the people who I want, and then how to get them to approach me. I didn't have as much success as I wanted, but also I think that as I have gotten older and tried more things, like I was saying, I'm writing better, which helps. And I've gotten to write to the better audience. I've been able
Mm.
to, I've been able to. It's funny. Everybody always says, "Oh gosh, I don't know how you have an audience and how you've all these people have found you." But it's not, it's a 20-year overnight success, right? You it takes a while,
Yes.
unless you're super lucky.
Yeah. What would you say has been what's your favorite strategy for attracting customers? What's been your most successful that any of our viewers can go away and do right now?
Oh, I think honestly, like I was talking about Instagram, I think doing Instagram polls and Instagram lives, do that 3 days a week. Do it and you'll find success within 2 weeks. Do it 5 days a
Wow.
week. And if you do it 5 days a week, go live 5 days a week, go live 3 days a week, even, honestly, you'll definitely you'll see numbers. You'll get people sign up. And then having a free offer is really, really useful too. Give something away. Don't be afraid to use your skill and give it away. Because
And so would you say that Instagram is more successful than Facebook even now?
For me, it has, for sure. Mostly because there are ways to use Instagram so that you can really target your audience. So you can use hashtags to find. So for me, I talk to people who are chronically ill. I talk to people who have brain injuries. That's not my only audience, but that's my core audience. So if I target, it's almost like every single post you do is an advertisement in that way, and it's a free advertisement. So anybody can use those very easily, and within a minute, you'll see people who have responded to you.
Interesting. Well, we did a sprint in the Brand Builders Club last week where we had Jennifer Louise, who's like an avid Instagrammer, came in, and we got really focused on customer avatar, like crazy deep on avatar. And then she took us on an Instagram journey of how we could really attract those people. So for those of you watching who are in the Brand Builders Club that didn't take part in that sprint, or you did it and then you didn't do it, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to take the action that gets you the traction. Go back and do it, because it's a very, very good sprint. And as Jen says, you can reach people really fast. What I love about Instagram is that it's taken like the best bits from Twitter, the best bit from Facebook, and even some of the best bits from LinkedIn, and it's brought it all together. And I have quite a few people that have said, but Instagram, no, I don't want to be using Instagram or Facebook. My clients are on LinkedIn. Well, they might be on LinkedIn for certain reasons, but where they're chilling out is Instagram. That's where they're chilling out, on Instagram and Facebook. They're going, they're scrolling, they're in escapism. That's when they're more likely to buy something from you, because the barriers are down. They're not in business mode like they are on LinkedIn. So just rethink your strategy. If you think that your ideal clients are on LinkedIn, just think again, because you'll probably find that it's much, much easier to get to them by getting through to them by through a creative way of communicating with them, rather than the kind of straight up and down business way. There's an etiquette on LinkedIn that I think a lot of creative people, if you're attracting creative people as well, then Instagram is a brilliant place for you. How many of you are using Instagram already? If you can show us in the comments, that'd be really good to know. For those of you that are listening into the show, obviously you can write in, come and join us in the How to Build a Brand Facebook group and tell us how you are using Instagram to build your business. I'd love to know. So Jen, tell us about some of the things you're working on now, because you've got a challenge, you've got other things that you're doing right now. Tell us about some of those things.
Well, I'm really excited. I just started taking private clients for coaching. So I've been doing writing coaching for both project-based and long-term writing projects. So what that would entail is, depending upon the level that they choose, it's once or twice a week phone calls with me, or we could do Zoom calls. I just prefer the intimacy of a phone call. I can do it any way that my clients want to. I just like to talk to them, and then my hands are free because then I'm able to just because that way I'm always trying to find different resources for my clients. I have a client that I'm working with on a memoir project that is nonfiction based, so I'm able to kind of steer her in the directions. Oh yes, you want this lucky in that I've been doing this long enough that I have a lot of resources that I can add value for my clients. So I have different clients, fiction and non. That's been really fun, because then I get to not only work with them, but I'm able to exercise my own creativity on a time schedule that works for me, because I have been doing book touring for several, well, I don't know, 10 years. My kids are older now, and I want to be able to have a little less time in the outside world. So it works real well for right now. That's been great.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's been great.
Yeah, working well for you. So what's the next step? You've got a book that's launching soon as well, haven't you?
I'm doing I do have a new book. I have a workbook, a self-advocacy workbook. That is something that I had I had done it years and years ago. I did a first version of it when I was speaking on the topic all around the United States, speaking about how to stand up for yourself, how to speak up for yourself, how to find out what really mattered to you, and speak to those people about it. But I'm doing a relaunch of that book, and I'm going to be giving it away for free
Ooh.
to help launch. I'm doing an online writing school as well, so it's going to be on Teachable. I'm almost done. I think I'm filming the last video today, so that'll be,
Yay! That
yeah.
sounds
So
good.
that'll be fun. I just want to be able to reach more people in a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like doing it in a school way helps conserve my time and their time, and that way
Yeah,
people can get
absolutely.
to what they want.
So, Jen, how do people find out more about you? Have you got a website? Have you got something that you can tell me so I can type it in and pop it on the screen for those that are watching in? For those of you listening, don't worry, I will read it out.
Yes, my website is jenniferbyerschambers.com. It's my whole name because the there's a lot of Jennifer Chamberses out there. So it's
Okay.
jenniferbyerschambers.com. And then I have a
Is that
Facebook.
Byers, just to be clear?
Yes,
Yep. Okay, let's just get that on the screen and you can proofread that. Is that right?
perfect. That's it.
Okay. JenniferByersChambers.com. Byers is spelled Byers. JenniferByersChambers.com. So they can go to that website and they can find out all the things that you've got coming up. And do we follow you on Instagram? How do we follow you on Instagram?
Oh, please do. But you can either follow me at Jennifer B Chambers 55, or which is
Yep.
my personal Instagram, or I'm a lot more active on the Resilient Podcast Network, which is the Instagram for one of my shows.
Oh, very exciting. There you go. That's on the screen right now. So you can go and listen to Jen's podcast at Resilient Podcast Network. You can go and follow her on that link as well on Instagram. And I pray that loads of people just flood to you from these interviews and from all the great work that you're doing, because it's not often that you get literally somebody who's been touched by an angel or whoever that person was that came in and just said, this girl's worth saving. Basically, you think that she's gone, but she doesn't have to be. Let's bring her back. And this guy kind of goes in and goes out and nobody knows who he was. It's just, clearly you are on your divine path, because there's ease and flow in it. Might not have been an easy journey to get you to realize that, but actually it seems to me like your path has been pretty aligned. It's been pretty anointed in what you're doing.
Well,
Do you feel that way?
absolutely. Also, it's a lot to live up to. So um, I really feel that I am so grateful for every day. And I'm so grateful both because of my brain injury and my other autoimmune illnesses. I don't it's not foreseen that I would live this well. And it nobody has a definitive on how well they live. It's how well you choose to live. I really do believe that. I've been so incredibly lucky. I can never discount that, but I've also worked really hard, and I think I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful all the time.
Well, I'm grateful that you were able to not only be here, but to make time to be here with us on the show today. Thank you so much for bringing us your lessons, your light bulbs, your ahas, the things that have happened for you on your journey. And I mean, what an amazing story you have. Guys and girls, if you have a story inside you and you're not quite sure how to get it out, how to articulate it, how to use it really powerfully to be able to reach out and connect with the people who need to hear that story so that you can move them from where they are to where they want to be, do reach out to Jen, follow her, stalk her, do whatever you need to do to learn the genius that is inside her head, that she's been obviously divinely guided to bring to us all. Make sure you go and follow her. Jen, thank you once again for making the time today, and I look forward to watching your journey. I think we should get you back on the show later in a few months and see what did Jen do next.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. Guys and girls, we will be back. We'll be back on Thursday this week. So we're going to be live on Tuesday and Thursday this week. And next week, I think it's Tuesday and Wednesday. But don't worry, I will let you know as we're going live with the show. We're cutting it down to twice a week again now. So we're getting back into flow, getting back into what we're doing really, really well. The Thinkubators is really where I'm spending all of my time, is making sure that I'm able to support our clients who are joining the Brand Builders Club Light membership and joining us at the Thinkubators each Tuesday. So if you haven't attended a Thinkubator yet, then we've got to get you out of that rock and make sure that you come and join us at one of our upcoming Thinkubators. I'll pop the link on screen. Let me just pop it up there now. If you go to brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator, you can go and sign up for any of the upcoming Thinkubators that we've got coming up. As I say, we're live every week. We stagger the time. So this morning I was live at 9 a.m. Next week, we'll be live at 5:30 p.m. so that Jen and other people from all over the States and Canada can come and join us as well. And we have our morning show so that Indonesia, Malaysia, Australia can also join in. If you're in Europe, you've got it lucky because you can turn up every week and it's not going to be a crazy ass time for you. So make sure you go and book on that link. Come and join us to Mastermind. And just going to get Jen's Instagram back up there. Greg said, what's her Instagram again? Here you go. It's on the screen now. So you can either contact Jennifer B. Chambers 55 for her personal Instagram, or the business Instagram, which is Resilient Podcast Network. I'd just go and sign up to both of them. Go and follow them both. Jen, thanks once again. Guys and girls, thank you for showing up for yourself, for each other, and for us today. We'll look forward to seeing you for the next show on Thursday. Take care, and we will see you there. Mwah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you so much. That was super fun.